Hi, this is State Senator Tom George. Welcome to my program, Current Events. Today I have with me Mr. Ken Vrana. Ken is the president of the Maritime Center. And I've asked Ken to come on the program to talk a little bit about the center's work, but also about a possible recent maritime discovery. So Ken, welcome to my program.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And tell us a little bit about the Maritime Center and what you do there.
The full name is the Center for Maritime and Underwater Resource Management. It's a private nonprofit scientific and educational organization which was originally established in the Department of Park, Recreation, and Tourism Resources at Michigan State University. And then we elected to spin off as a nonprofit when a number of departments there were consolidated. And in essence, our mission is to assist both those in private sector and public sector in dealing with management challenges and opportunities dealing with maritime heritage in general and historic shipwrecks in particular.
How long have you been with the center for then?
Oh, since 1994. So it looks like we're going on 15 years total under university and private sector.
So you were with the staff of the university originally, but now the center is independent.
That's correct. And of course it gives us the freedom to work with many different types of institutions and organizations, not just here in the Great Lakes region, but in particular, we've done a number of projects in the Caribbean Basin, assisting, again, both public and private partnership development.
And the reason I've asked you to come on my program today is because I read some newspaper accounts of a potential shipwreck discovery. I think it was in Lake Michigan that caught my interest, and it is possibly a French sailing ship known as the Griffin, Le Griffin, the first apparent sailing ship on the Great Lakes. And there's a claim that maybe the wreck has been found. And so that's why I brought you here. Tell me what you know, or what you can tell us.
Well, that's correct. I think a number of people hope that finally Le Griffin, the fabled vessel of Robert La Salle, has been found. But right up front, I'll tell you there is not yet the scientific evidence to positively identify the vessel as Le Griffin. But it's an exciting potential new find. Through history, and particularly in recent times, there's been about 10 claims of discovery of the Le Griffin, all of which have been proved one way or another to be incorrect. So again, after going through so many trials and errors, I think a lot of folks hope that after 300 plus years, the vessel has been found.
And tell us a little bit about what you know about the Griffin, La Salle, the French explorer who he wasn't on the ship when it was lost. It was a ship he had sailed on, and now it was returning. Tell us a little about the Griffin and La Salle. Who was he?
Well, La Salle is basically a peg in a very grand plan of La Salle to explore the Great Lakes region and the Mississippi and claim those lands for King Louis XIV. And of course, there was a motive too. Anyone accomplishing that end, of course, would have a number of riches showered upon him or her. So, in essence, Le Griffin was a supply link. And in his grand plan, a number of forts would be established through the Great Lakes region and down the Mississippi, and therefore provide a complete trade link between the mouth of the Mississippi and Montreal in the St. Lawrence. If that would have been accomplished in whole, absolutely it would have changed the course of development and settlement of North America and the United States.
And the French indeed did were the first European settlers in Michigan, founded Detroit, Sault Ste. Marie. And did LaSalle, did he found Fort St. Joseph and Niles? He founded some French settlements in Michigan, correct?
He sure did. After he left Le Griffin in Green Bay in September 1679, he traveled on down Lake Michigan to what became the site of St. Joseph. He established a fort there, Fort Miami, as well as a dock. Now the dock was to have been used for Le Griffin.
But it never made it back, apparently.
That's right. That was the last LaSalle saw of Le Griffin in September of 1679. And that basically thwarted his plans to establish a couple more forts down the Mississippi, as well as build another vessel at a fort near what is now Peoria, Illinois. And that vessel would have then carried on the rest of the link of commerce down the Mississippi.
And so how had LaSalle, where had he sailed from? So he was on the Griffin, he sails to St. Joseph, Michigan. And where's he coming from?
LaSalle was coming from Green Bay, probably Washington or Rock Island. Now, the rest of his crew in Le Griffin left for Fort Michilimackinac.
I mean, after they drop him off?
Yes, and he proceeded down Lake Michigan in canoes.
And the ship is now going back to Michilimackinac, and that's the last we hear of it.
That's the last we heard of it.
And LaSalle continues his work, which is interrupted by this loss, but later he ends up in Texas somehow.
Yes, there's a number of trips in between his eventual establishment of a colony in Texas and his murder later on in what is now Texas by his own countrymen. When he discovered that Le Griffin had been lost, he made a trip back from the fort near Peoria, Illinois, all the way back to Fort Frontenac, which he established on Lake Ontario. If you can imagine a raw wilderness of the 17th century and a trek of 1,500 miles that he made in 60 days, when he pretty much figured out that something was amiss with Le Griffin. He then searched for Le Griffin and others associated with that ill-fated voyage, but eventually came back again to Fort Frontenac and outfitted another trip back to what is now the Illinois River, and then on to the Mississippi, and did indeed finally find the mouth of the Mississippi with a small party of countrymen.
And then from there he continues on to Texas at some point, and he has another ship.
Well, that was his prize, the discovery of the mouth of the Mississippi. With that information, he returned to France and, in essence, secured the authorization from the king's people to establish a colony, a French colony at the mouth of the Mississippi, again, in consistency with his grand plan. That colony, again, was an ill-fated venture, unfortunately for LaSalle. He lost a couple ships, one to piracy, one to sinking, which was later discovered, and that was La Belle.
Oh, okay.
But again, after wandering around trying to find the mouth of the Mississippi because they missed it on their return voyage from France,